Man, this is tough, dude. This is tough. I would probably have to go with. Well, guitar, it kind of came a little bit later. I primarily started taking piano lessons when I was 4. And then, after playing piano for several years, I just kind of naturally took the guitar as well and just transferred basically what I had learned from piano to guitar. But really, growing up, my mom was a huge Pat Metheny fan. She loved George Benson. So all of these really, singer-songwriter guitarists, I grew up listening to. But I'd say for me, really one of my biggest inspirations, I'd have to say, is probably John Mayer. He was kind of the main reason why I wanted to play guitar. And I remember specifically too, it was his performance with Eric Clapton's Crossroads Festival. Oh, yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but if you haven't heard of it, you should check it out because it's awesome. Every performance, I'm not sure how many years he's done it, but it was John Mayer's his first performance at the Crossroads Festival, and he performed his song City Love live. And that song was kind of like, that exact performance of it was really like, to me, my mind was blown, and I was like, I have to learn this. So I remember my mom had got me my first guitar, and it was a Fender Telecaster. And I learned that whole song, the intro, from that live recording, by ear. It took me forever to figure out, but that's really the first solid memory that I have of really wanting to learn how to play guitar. And I think maybe 12 or 13 at that time. When I first started writing that song, the initial writing process for it, I wrote that for somebody else. I wrote it for this, very iconic diva of an artist, and I wanted to write something, upbeat, fun, timeless, and I think a lot of times when you write songs, you want to write things that people can relate to, and I think everybody can relate to being in love. It doesn't matter what age you are, or this particular artist that we were writing it for, she was quite a bit older, so that's kind of why I went the route of writing Love You Right, because I think you're never too old to be in love and love someone. And I think the song is just, it's a very romantic bop, and just being so in love with somebody, and you know that you're never going to find anybody like that person. But that was kind of the main gist of the song. Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like there's pros and cons to both sides as being an independent artist, but also, as there are to being on a label. I'm obviously independent as of right now, and I like being independent. I think it's great because I kind of have control over everything that I'm doing and everything that I'm putting out. But I'm also definitely open to working with a label if it's the right fit for me as an artist. If I could see myself on their, catalog for artists. And I think there's a lot with signing a label. They can really take your music a lot farther than I would be able to do so as an independent artist, in terms of having the money to market these songs and do all of the other stuff that kind of goes behind being an artist. And I think it would be great to not have to really focus about, everything else that goes into being an artist, and just being able to focus on creating good music, Yeah. I think that's kind of a pro of having a label, and that's kind of something that I'm working towards. I'm very fortunate to have been as successful as I have as an independent artist. But I think now there's I wouldn't hesitate to sign with a label if it was a good fit, because I feel like I've kind of developed myself. I know the music I make. I know who I am as an artist. I wouldn't hesitate to be with a label and like worry about them trying to change me as an artist, because I feel like I've already kind of defined that. It's definitely something that is kind of on my goal list, I guess you could say. As we release more music, we've been releasing singles, and I would love to put out an album, but I'd like to do that maybe with a label, just so there's more support. Having a team behind me, I think, would be very helpful, and it would make the album be a lot more successful. Yeah, I think for me, it's just, I grew up listening to, old R&B, old jazz. Like, that's the type of music that I love. Soul. A couple artists that come to mind, I love Anita Baker. I love Toni Braxton. I love George Benson. I love Michael Jackson. So I think for me, the main thing that I want to do is I want to, have elements of that in my music, but also make it modern, also make it fit today's times, and add different elements of pop and neo soul, I guess is what people call it these days. Yeah. And I love old music, but I also love new music. I love Tom Misch. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of him. I think he's incredible, as a guitar player, as a singer-songwriter, producer. Leanne LaHavas, she's another favorite of mine. But I think it's really cool, like for me, mixing those old elements of R&B and soul and making them suit today's times.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's a good question. I mean, I would hope that they would first off like it. But it's funny. I have a hard time like talking about myself and my music, but I would hope that they would like it. And I think another thing too is when I've talked to people, just random people that have reached out, it's funny because they can never really quite pinpoint who I sound like vocally, like they can't really pick out like a similar artist that I sound like, which I think is kind of like cool and refreshing to know that, there's nobody out there that's really sounding kind of like, I sound or the music that I'm putting out. But I would say, it's definitely heavy on the R&B soul side of things with like a unique vocal approach, I would say. But yeah, I think definitely like R&B soul, but we're also, myself and the band, we love pop music too. So I think we're trying to kind of get into like the R&B pop as well. But yeah, I would say just like groovy, soulful R&B. I've been listening to, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. Her name's, I might be pronouncing this wrong. It's Kiana Lede. She is definitely, I'd say, alternative R&B or R&B pop. But I've been listening to her. Leanne LaHavas, her new album came out a few months ago. Been listening to that. Troye Sivan, he's more pop, but I really like him. I think he's got a beautiful voice. Been listening to his new EP. Snow Allegra, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. Huge fan. But yeah, I feel like my musical taste, I love all genres, obviously. But now that I'm making like R&B soul music, that's kind of the genre that I gravitate towards when I'm listening to music too. But I love all types of music. For me, it is the music. Music first, and then lyrics. I know a lot of guitar players will say this, but I have to go with John Mayer.
Better than what you had, walk this way.
Probably for me personally, I love my my Fender Ultra. It's kind of been a go-to for me, whether in the studio or playing live. That's usually what I play. I would have to say, I'm not a big pedal person, so it would be hard for me to say a pedal, but I don't know. I guess a beer to go with the gig. When you're on stage, you want to have a little drink. Incredible. Okay, least I'm gonna start with Buddy Guy. I'm gonna work my way up. Eric Clapton, Prince, Tom Misch, and then John Mayer. I would say just staying true to yourself, making music that you're proud of and that you believe in. I think it's easy to, like, as an artist, to get into the music industry and, do things that you think you need to do that everybody else is doing. And I think it's important, especially just for me, sticking to your guns and not worrying about all of the other things that go into putting music out. Just making music that you're proud of and, having fun while you're doing it. I would have to say Kurt Henderson. I am fortunate enough to play in a band with him. He is the lead guitar player in my group, and he's an incredible guitar player. And more people need to know about him. Man, this is tough, dude. This is tough. I would probably have to go with either John Mayer or George Benson, I'd have to say. This is tough. Okay. D'Angelo, Spanish Joint. I love that song. Never gets old. I feel like a lot of people would say Heartbreak. Good songs come out of that. But for me, I think I write best when I'm, like, excited about something. So I think, like, if I, go into play music with the guys, like, I always, look forward to that. So I get excited and it makes me want to, like, write a lot. So yeah, I don't know. I would have to say just, like, being happy and excited, I think, for me anyway. That's always resulted in good songs. I appreciate you guys taking the time to speak with me today. It's been fun.